Africa is preparing for what's being described as the most important election since the end of apartheid. The dominant issues for all parties are soaring unemployment and crime levels.
I must confess, I thought the world would have emerged from its financial shambles by now. The Brits have Brexited, markets are in a mess, and the light in the tunnel is limp. With the possible exception of the election hustings here and in the States, no competitive environment teaches the neutral observer quite such wholesome lessons of life as the racetrack. As a builder of character, racing is up there with war and poverty. History tells us our best endeavours are born from adversity, however, and South African horsemen are on the brink of a game changer. In my life in the game, we've never had a better case for the normalisation of the protocols for the export of our horses, which in recent years have delivered up Group 1 performances in most of the major racing jurisdictions of the world.
At perfect promise will get up and beat Letter the Matter.
On the richest night in international racing, South African trained racehorses have outpointed all comers in 5 of the past 10 years. It's a record without parallel for a country of our size.
Shay moves up to Joy and Fun and Eagle Regiment. Shay takes the lead. Shay wins the Elgo sprint. Shay from Joy and Fun.
For that matter, at the Dubai World Cup, it's a record without parallel. Period.
The South African star Variety Club. Variety Club's gone deep. Variety Club's going best. And Variety Club roars away to beat Able Friend.
The opportunity that beckons now reminds me of that bit of Bill Shakespeare's about the tide in the affairs of men, which taken at the flood leads on to fortune. The other cause for optimism I learned from my grandfather. In good times, he said, rich men invest in art, beautiful women, and fast horses. In bad times, rich men invest in art, beautiful women, and fast horses. The sporting world has a perverse capacity for delighting in the discomfort of its heroes. All sport is about winning, and they tend not to like it much when you win too often. More so in racing and Formula One. They are meant for the spirited, and any game of high stakes and unbridled speed is bound to stir the embers of those troublesome twins, envy and derision. That said, horse racing has undergone several revolutions in my lifetime. For centuries, it regarded itself as a private activity pursued by rich men and attended by devotees. Its parallel was cricket, which took that most feared of beasts, a miffed Australian, to take itself less seriously. A myth of nobility had been created in the pulpits of England as a way of persuading the congregation to reduce their drinking and carousing, and instead to take up the manly games of cricket and racing. For generations now, the Gosses have followed this advice, and besides their reverence for the horse, the one thing we inherited from our forebears was a sense of values. This year, as a family, we celebrate 100 years with Standard Bank. Without them, there'd be no Summerhill as we know it today. While it was not always thus, none of us need convincing these days about the virtues of our homegrown stallion prospects, tried and tested in our own conditions. Though history will always be the judge, first it calls for an epic. An act of war comes as decorated as the best of them. His father is a champion of the breeding shed, his mum a broodmare of the year. As a 2-year-old, Act of War dominated his class the way A.B. de Villiers flattens fast bowlers. And his supremacy was of the Muhammad Ali mode in his march through the classic
Act
trial.
of War is running right here, he's out in front. Act of War, too good, he storms away to win it.
1400 metre mark in the Kudamacham Stakes. Act of War is now being produced and he's starting his run. Here comes Act of War. He's in full cry in the closing stages. And Act of War, the jump is back and back with a bang.
By the time he lined up for the Cape Guineas, he was looking to add further luster to a race distinguished not only by his iconic father dynasty, but also by fellow champions Jetmaster and Captain L. When he locked horns at the 600 with the previous season's generational champion Harry's son, they engaged in one of those honest battles that says there's more to racing than a scribble on a betting ticket.
Harry's son, but Act of War is coming on full of running, and Act of War now gets driven. Act of War has kicked for home, and he's powering home to win the Grand Parade Cape Guineas.
From the 300 to the post, though, you knew they were piddling into the wind, because the chap in the black cap was John Wayne, and he's hellish hard to beat in this mood. For the 6th consecutive time, with a regularity which makes the Greenwich time signal look over its shoulder, here was Act of War doing what he was born to do, running much faster than the rest. This record would commend any young colt of his origins for a career at the top studs in the land. But that's only half the Act of War story. He wasn't only the best miler of his generation, he was as good as any I've sat on. That's what Anton Marcus thinks. When he speaks, even the church mice listen. Anyone who'd bothered to ask him at national sales time who'd win the South African Nursery of 2013 would know that champion trainer Sean Tarry was already a believer, even in the face of the deep odds-on shot Red Ray. Willow Magic arrived on a bow wave of exultant acclamation, sweeping his foes aside with a stunning display of superiority. In the process, he would become the first Southern Hemisphere Group 1 winner for a stallion destined to launch a nation.
Gates are open. Willow Magic is very quick into stride. Willow Magic is down the centre with Tommy Gunn. 300 metres left to go. Willow Magic has picked up the lead now. Willow Magic the one to get to, but Red Ray is out after him. It's Willow Magic with Red Ray chasing. Willow Magic by a length and a half. Willow Magic has beaten Red Ray home.
Rated with the best of his juvenile peers, much was expected of Willow Magic's sophomore career. He did not disappoint. Racing is an emotional journey, and the racing public are always yearning for a hero. On the 1st of December 2013, it seemed their prayers had been answered. It was Summer Cup Day, and the Dingons had attracted the cream of the country's 3-year-olds. His victory in this time-honoured test signalled a golden moment.
Willow Magic strikes the front, 200 to go in the Investec Dingons, and it is Willow Magic for Sean Tarry, leads from Whistle Stop, and Willow Magic is going all the way here. Willow Magic wins the Investec Dingons. And Willow Magic has pulled off a big win in the Investec Dingons today.
He's got natural speed, and he ran a cracker.
He is the real deal, and he's done everything himself. This horse is a bomb.
Willow Magic, Willow Magic, Willow Magic. He done it for us, and he'll do it for us in the future.
The Dingons are supposed to be the supporting act for the Summer Cup. Not this time. Yorker duly won the Summer Cup, but Willow Magic won the hearts. At a cost. Somewhere in the heat of battle, our man had done a tendon, and it looked ominously like the end of the road. "14 months on from the Dingons, the son of Dubawi returned to Turffontein over the minimum trip. It was a sporting comeback from the dead that would have made the Sphinx blink. All resurrections involve a miracle. Just ask race caller Alistair Cohen.
400 metres left to go. Valberg tightens up, and he now goes clear of Grease Paint in second. Then comes Willow Magic to the outside. Look how he's travelling. Here comes Willow Magic, hard held. What a win! What a performance this is. Turpentine comes alive, and Willow Magic has smashed them. What a win. Take notice, Willow Magic is back, and back with a bang.
In the 150-year existence of Turpentine, only one horse had ever gone faster. The horse the fans all thought was back. But the reality is, it was as much a demonstration of the courage the world has come to expect of the Dubawis as it was an expression of his raw ability. Willow Magic had arrived on a suspect fording, and in his readiness to keep the show on the road, he'd managed to disguise what looked like a return to his best with what was really a display of uncompromising bravery. In racing, the line between triumph and disaster, between first and also ran, can be as thin as the hair on your head. Not here though. This is the best son in Africa of one of the best stallions on the planet. And anyone with a semblance of understanding knows this is opportunity, with a capital O. Fanfare and salutation greeted Cape Town Noor at Summerhill a year ago. He was the most accomplished son of the grand champion Western Winter. Like Act of War, his mother was a broodmare of the year. Like Act of War, he'd enjoyed the deep admiration of Anton Marcus. And like Act of War, he triumphed in the nation's #1 stallion maker. It lies in the power of the remarkable to transport us to extraordinary places. And by the time his career was done, Cape Town Noor had reaffirmed that in the world of racing, a microcosm of the more complex universe as well as an escape from it, all dreams are permissible. For the Grand Parade Cape Guineas, he'd arrived with a rap sheet that made his victory accountable only through the unique contingencies of his makeup, his spirit and his raw ability.
Head towards the 400 in the Cape Premier Yelling Cell Guineas. Cape Town Noir in the yellow colours is moving swiftly. It's Cape Town Noir that says, come and catch me if you can. Cape Town Noir wins it easy.
In a matter of 5 strides, he destroyed the dreams of 6 Group 1 performers with a nonchalance that belied the subsequent feats of his victims. Class is one form of greatness, courage is another. And in the Investec Derby, they'd met in a serendipity the old alchemist sought unavailingly for generations.
Cape Town Noir that's got to the front but is under a driving right. Cape Town Noir. Cape Town Noir by half a length from Dynamic.
Our sport can sometimes be base metal. On Derby Day, it was pure gold. The Lormeran's Queen's Plate was first run in 1861, and it's as if that well-known racing fan Tchaikovsky wrote his overture to mark the occasion. It may have been close on 150 years since the overture, but hell man, Cape Town made sure the main performance was worth waiting for.
In the Lormeran Queen's Plate at Jackson, he's starting to unleash his run up the middle. Cape Town Noir's gone to the inside rail, up the outside Yorker, 200 metres left to go. Cape Town Noir gets driven into the lead. Jackson is on the charge and he's coming with the race money up the outside. Cape Town Noir though has kicked away, and Cape Town Noir gets the Lormeran Queen's Plate from Jackson. Jet Explorer absolutely flew to running the bird.
As he cruised home at the head of a stellar assembly, the usually demure Kenilworth crowd battened onto the vibe, throwing off the Panamas and abandoning their pims to join the mass act of worship. Lingari was all fact, no fiction. He was the all-male powerhouse with the speed, the strength and the stamina to swamp the swiftest at their game. Mix it with the master milers and mince the middle distance mob in a European Group 1. On the way, he carved out a new definition of the international racehorse with black type performances in 8 different countries on 4 different continents. Excellence is within the grasp of most of us. Greatness, we're told, is the preserve of the few. The transition between good racehorse and good stallion is a chasm as deep as the Fish River Canyon. Lingari straddled it in his stride. Last season, from far fewer opportunities, he split the Rising Stars in the French firmament, Le Havre and Siouni for 3-year-old earnings.
Bibliothèque gagne également prise de la corde avec le numéro de Lingaro qui va s'imposer.
Le Poitiers Espagné avec Dayfork qui est 4e, avec Mr. Papa qui a triomphé très facilement la 2e place.
In 2016, Garlingari has galloped to a brace of group victories, while in South America his runners have chalked up another 4 Group 1 entries on their pedigree pages.
And it is Garlingari still out in front, Sunbal going pretty well though, still into Pierre-Charles Boudot. Horse War as it goes towards the line, Garlingari in the centre, Sunbal near side. Garlingari now is going to land the X3.
This is the Group 2 Prix d'Arcourt. The gates are back, they're off and racing. Garlingari is racing 3rd and Harlem is 4th in the pink cap. By Character in turn, joined by Garlingari. Garlingari very green, roundabout way. This is a big performance. Garlingari bolts in.
At a time when fashion reigns ahead of all else in the world of the thoroughbred, speed is the uncontested king. Atto's place in a quintet of sprinter milers in the Summerhill barn is a response to the demands of a no-compromise market. Superb at the most important thing racehorses have to do, Meteor Speed won him the Woodlands. A destructive tempo made sure of the patrons.
Gingerbread Man and Atto the outside, Gingerbread Man, Nandara over on the fence, but Atto pokes his nose in front, Nandara kicks back, but Atto takes out the patrons.
That night in the Chris Flyer, Europe's marquee speed merchant was rumoured unbeatable. Neither Atto's trainer nor his sporting owners were about to shirk the challenge, however.
Racing in the 2012 Chris Flyer. Krypton Factor down the outside, but Atto out of the middle goes up with Mr. Big. Take out the Chris Flyer. Atto wins it by a length and a half over Mr. Big. Secret Asset, and next in was Captain Obvious.
When they passed him, he only waits for them to get past and then he starts to come back at them.
What an ending. What was not ended. I mean, we're only just beginning.
The last 200 metres of a race that is always contested with feral ferocity was one of those moments that reassures you of the abiding beauties of the game. They say that the hallmark of a good sire is getting one better than himself. Let's face it, Brave Tin Soldier was born to be good, and in his contest for the Freshman Sires title, he paid his respects to a record 45 million rand price tag and a distinguished career on the track. This year, though, was something else. In Rabada, the only colt of his generation to win Group 1s at 2 and 3, he's fulfilled the definition of a good sire. While his top 5 ranking among sophomore stallions speaks of a different dimension.
Rabada just waits at the rail. Rabada's on the inside. Rabada toward the inside. Rabada with his head in front, and Rabada pulled it off.
I said it from the first day one, he's going to be one serious racehorse. It's all about the special horse. He's a big baby. He's only doing his maturing now. I'm eternally grateful to Marcus and Ingrid and Derek Brookman.
Daily News 2000 metres, starting the lever. Rabada moves in. It's my turn, tries to close it down. Rabada just the leader. It's my turn on the outside. Rabada, and it's my turn. They get to the line. Rabada won it. Rabada won the Daily News in a terrific finish.
His best books are on the ground, and his best prospects are ahead of him. In our worship of speed, we shouldn't overlook the fact that our richest races are at distances of 2,000 metres and beyond. Our preferences may favour the swift, but in Europe, the Derby laureates Galileo, Mongeur, High Chaparral and See the Stars have recalibrated the breeding landscape since the turn of the century. Arthurian legend has been a popular source of names among famous thoroughbreds. Sir Galahad, Round Table, Sir Tristram and Camelot, and now we have Golden Sword, whose Herculean assault on the English Derby obscures the fact that he's one of High Chaparral's best sons.
Place Golden Sword kicks for home, and now the Derby is up for grab. It's Golden Sword who leads from Age of Aquarius. Golden Sword on the front end, leads passing the two. See the Stars in the yellow colours. A Golden Sword being gathered in by See the Stars. See the Stars will complete the Guineas and Derby double.
You know, without See the Stars in it, he would have been the Derby winner.
That he's from one of the best families in the stud book, and that he ran the best 2,000 metres time in UAE history.
Gates are back. Golden Sword from the outside, one of the first away. Dean jumped to the left.
Better than all 21 winners of the world's richest race.
Here comes Golden Sword on the outside. Dean.
That year in Dubai, he was one of the most talented individuals I had in the stable.
But Golden Sword hits the front.
Golden Sword is still the current track record holder at Maidan.
Golden Sword clear, 100 metres left to run. They won't catch Golden Sword.
His three eye-catching winners from just a handful of runners for Mike de Kock, Michael Azzi, Adrian van Vuren and Sheikh Mohammed is a testimony of what lies ahead.
Oasis Queen still with a 1.5 length advantage. Oasis Queen is looking for the line and she found it.
Bell Rose comes home at Legend Seeker. These are the two now with 100 metres to go, but Bell Rose is shot clear. And Bell Rose will win it easily. Bell Rose to give Mike de Kock the double.
Thank God for the 2 and a bit that separated him from See the Stars in the Derby. Otherwise, he'd be safely ensconced in an emerald paddock in County Tipperary. Much the same can be said of Traffic Guard, whose first youngsters like Paul on the Damascus Road have just seen the light.
With 300 metres left to go and Blue Light Convoy is still in front. Then comes Frozen Queen Anne is further back past the 200. Blue Light Convoy, but it's still Blue Light Convoy. Going all the way is Blue Light Convoy, and this will win from coast to coast.
Then comes Sovereign Magic as they come down to the 200. Bovar down the outside takes it up. Sovereign Magic is running on. Sovereign Magic's coming powerfully, but it's Sovereign Magic, and Sovereign Magic has won it.
The highest rated son in Africa of the best dual hemisphere stallion of the current era, his unbeaten record over 6 furlongs at 2 hides a pedigree packed with a July victor, a Gold Cup ace and a Derby winner, as well as a stellar career at the distance of our best races. Some horses are capable of writing more improbable scripts than most humans though, and Traffic Guard reserved his finest hour for the Irish Champion Stakes.
With New Approach improving on the outside, King of Rome and Traffic Guard race together. Then Traffic Guard racing now towards the final furlong. They're inside the last 200 yards. Traffic Guard putting in an effort on the outside. New Approach from Traffic Guard as they race up towards the finish. It's New Approach and Kevin Manning is going to win the Tattersalls Millions Champion Stakes by less than a length. Traffic Guard, Multidimensional and Moore's Wells, they're clear.
Whatever other accolades they may shower upon New Approach, when the curtain came down on that massive encounter, he knew he'd been in a fight. The special mixture of relief and satisfaction that pervades the morning after a major triumph is one of the sweetest pleasures in racing. But heaven help me, in almost 40 years of these pilgrimages, none has beaten the joy of being at Summerhill the day we won our 10th championship. I've been quoted as saying breeding racehorses is a game you can play well into your dotage. And while I can't imagine I'll still be at it when I'm 90, I can't imagine what else I'd ever want to do. Meanwhile, though, I suspect that unless they walk in one day and find that God has retired me, I'll still be good for a few furlongs. The salvation is that I developed my eccentricities at an early age, which means as I get older, they won't think I'm going gaga. Besides, I've lived by the thought that in order to be part of a successful venture, you should surround yourself with people who are better than you are. I have. And that's why they're back in the box seat.